Every single one of these individuals that you see that are front and center on social media, that have this huge presence from marketing, how did they get there? They busted their ass 1 to 2 to 3 hours a day, reaching out to potential clients or past clients so they could generate enough income so that they could begin to actually move from sweat equity to check equity.
Welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today we're going to be talking to Bill Pipes, aka Coach Pipes, one of the top real estate coaches on the planet. He's done over 100,000 coaching sessions and 50,000 hours of coaching. He's also ran a successful mortgage company, ran a successful team, and has coached over 30 people from zero to over $1 million a year in real estate. In today's episode, he's going to be revealing some of his proven strategies for growing your business and doing more deals in any market, how to use data to improve your pitch and close more sales, and also where to easily find that data, and a proven plan that any realtor can follow regardless of experience to build a $1 million a year real estate business. If you have any questions, put them in the box down below. As always, make sure you like this video so other people just like you can find it. If you haven't already, make sure you join the Facebook group, link in the description. And as always, if you like money and you like real estate, hit that subscribe button because this is the show for you. We'll see you on the inside. Welcome to Founders Club, the show for real estate entrepreneurs. Welcome, Bill Pipes, man. Really appreciate you being here. And obviously legendary coach in the real estate space. You've worked with some of the top trainers in the business for many, many years. I was actually just thinking this morning about the last time or the first time that I saw you speak, and it was at a Mike Ferry event outside of Disneyland in probably 2005, 2006.
In Anaheim, right?
In Anaheim.
Anaheim.
Yep. Exactly.
I keep this dude on my desk to this
there
day,
he is,
man. You know, like
that's the original Mike Ferry right there,
dude. These are DVDs for those of you that don't even remember what those are. So, but Mike always used to say he kept 2 pictures of people on his desk. He had Gunther Klaus and Earl Nightingale. Well, I combined those both into my primary mentor, who's Mike. And so, I still give big shouts out, big ups to Mike. If you want fundamentals, in terms of business, there's no better, right? Almost 80 years old now at this point. The guy's still doing it, bro.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, he, like you said, the fundamentals, he's the best at teaching that. Absolutely. Yep. And I remember just being inspired by your speech, and like you were all suited up like the Mike Ferry way. And then I remember seeing you in the lobby, like I'm talking like 15 minutes after the event had ended, and you were shorts, flip-flops, t-shirt. And I was like, oh man, I like this guy. Like this guy's,
and how it's evolved from like the suit and tie into like the hat and the my G3 gear, man. So crazy how evolution takes place. And that's one of the things, Ollie, is, man, we either evolve or we get eliminated. You know what I mean? And I think there's still a place for suiting up and booting up and tie and all that stuff. And I have my times that I actually do that, but it's fun to evolve, man. Like evolution.
And it just made you such a real person in my eyes, which I thought was cool. Awesome. So many years later, here we are, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today, to kind of spread some knowledge to the agents. We're really big on, giving back to the real estate community and just helping people grow, helping people thrive, helping people achieve more success. You're obviously, coaching very high level top producers. So I kind of wanted to start there in terms of like, what are you seeing that the most successful people in the business are doing right now?
It's super interesting because I just was prepping over the last couple of days to be able to go down to San Antonio to speak for one of my buddies, Brent Gove. And when I'm looking at, and there's like 29, 30 people that I've personally coached in the last 8 years that broke $1 million for the first time, right? Or they added $1 million to their to their top line GCI, which I'm super proud of. And, obviously, I feel like the Phil Jackson to a lot of Michael Jordans, so to speak.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
that's
and,
really.
like, I don't take any credit from them. I just, it's easy to ride a stallion and just get it to go in the right direction, when they've got the right things, but success leaves clues. Right. And, and getting the chance to work with all these amazing individuals and be able to support and assist them in their business. There's a couple of key things. And I was talking to Tina Call, talking to a couple of other, like, just badass, agents and leaders. And here's one of the key things that I think we got to look at in 2020, 2021, 2022, beginning of 2022. We got off we're talking about Mike Ferry and some fundamentals. We as an industry, we got really entitled. We got really lazy. We got really comfortable. We got really complacent. We were in a market where if you showed up, didn't say anything relatively too stupid, right, you were selling a lot of houses and making a lot of money. Well, I look at in, like around September, October of 2022, that market gave a lot of people some humble pie, the proverbial as, the great Warren Buffett said the tide went out and we got to see who was really wearing pants and who wasn't wearing pants. I think a lot of agents got exposed to the fact that they had gotten away from the fundamentals. What I can tell you about every single agent that I coach, every team that I'm leading right now and coaching is this: they are still prospecting based, bro, and marketing enhanced. Right. That they lead with this discipline, whether it's the individual agent that is like, hey, I want to break 7 figures for the first time. Cause I still take on about 5 or 6 of those a year. Right. Cause I love that game. There's nothing better than seeing someone break across the 7-figure, like podium for the first time. But, or if it's like a Matt Smith that is, 800, 900 transactions, brother, like they are still driving this. We are a culture. I am an agent that prospects first and markets second. And I think as an industry, we got away from that. And there's a lot of trainers that are out there that will tell you can market first and then prospect second, but that's not the case. Right. Okay. That's a great model. Market first, prospect second. If the market's upward trending, right, and you have a whole bunch of money to be able to spend, but when the market shifts and turns, and by the way, we're seeing it right now. It's a new market. It's an interesting market. Rates were 7.22% yesterday. They're 7.14, but you've got a lot of buyers that are still out there purchasing, man. They've sort of settled in. I don't know. I don't know about you guys down in San Diego. We're seeing there's a settling in on this new interest rate, but it's number one, you still got to pick up the phone. There's no escaping it. Okay, that's number one.
Yeah, totally agree. I do think there was a period there where the interest rates went up faster than people's expectations, and I think that's what caused a big lag. And now I think, to your point, I think people have swallowed the pill that interest rates are what they are, and now we got to move forward. And if you still need to buy a house, it is what it is.
Yeah, totally. And I expected. I spend time with like Mike Simonson of Altos, David Childress of Keeping Current Matters, Logan Matashami of Housing Wire. Like, these are the individuals that I really respect. I will tell you the second component of what I'm noticing that the great agents and leaders of teams are doing right now, and that is this: they are spending a lot more time educating themselves on the market, on both the macro market nationally, and all the data and the statistics and the information that's there, as well as their hyper local market that they actually have as well too, and the data that exists there. I teach a selling process. It took me, I've been in this, it sort of blows me away. We're talking like, it must have been 2005 or 6, right, when we met. I've been around Mike, Gary Keller, Dan Pena, who's not in the real estate space, but he's in a brilliant startup space guy. He's called the Billion. He's hard. Pena is hardcore. If you ever follow him, I just want to say, put your PG-13 ears aside, because it's like about as rated R as it gets in terms of the way that he talks. But like in all of this, when I look at this transition, it took me a while to really come and determine for myself, both as a salesperson in the industry, because I have sold, had a team, had a mortgage company for years, to be able to figure out what type of selling is going to work in today's world, because it's different than 1990 and it's different than 2000. The consumer is much more educated than they have ever been before. Now, notice I said I should say they're educated, they're not informed. Now, what's the difference? education, they can have false education that's taking place. And a lot of times the information that they're getting, that the consumer, the buyer, and the seller is getting, is tainted. It comes from YouTube, it comes from Fox, it comes from MSNBC, it comes from CNBC, it can come from wherever, right? And our job right now as a real estate sales professional is to be so educated with the facts that we can control the narrative and offset the false narrative that is being panned out from YouTube and all of the media sources, right? So that our clients, and here's what I call it education-based, data-driven selling. Education-based, data-driven selling, where I educate myself first, bro, so I can educate my clients so that they can make intelligent decisions.
Love that.
That's the game. That's what I teach. Right? And like I said, it took me 20 some odd years, 29 years to really land on what feels right, what works, right? And what is appropriate in today's market. So anyone that I coach right now and anyone that follows me, they know that I tell you, hey, if you're not spending 10 to 15 minutes a day studying Keeping Current Matters, Altos, Mortgage Daily News, Barry Habib, Housing Wire, Realtor.com, NAR, Zillow, Inman, Brad's actually been coming out with some really good stuff recently. So big, thank you, Brad, for making sure that we've got good information coming from your sources right now. But if you're not doing that, here's the key, dude. See, when two people meet, this is really important that I want everyone that's watching and listening to understand, is that when two people meet, they meet. The one that has the most certainty will have the greater influence on the other. When two people meet, the person that has the most certainty will have the greater influence on the other person. That's now, good. in this market, in this world that we're in, where there's so much information at the fingertips of consumers, if we're not educating ourselves, we have less certainty than the person who is taking time to at night while watching Netflix to pull up and what's going on in the market. Even though their informationally is off, they believe it and they're certain about it. And so then they have more control over the agent to say, I want to wait. And I think rates are going to come down. I think it's going to be better for me to wait till September or October or November. And that agent loses power because they are the least educated. They're the least certain. They have the least amount of knowledge, right? And that's on them because everyone can read. And if you can read, I'll quote my buddy Logan from Housing Wire. If you can read, there's no excuse for you not to be able to handle objections, because when you educate yourself, you have more certainty, you have more knowledge, you have more control and more influence at that point.
I really like that. I like a couple of things that you said there that I wrote down that I'd like to go a little deeper on. Everything about this in terms of like knowing the market, knowing the macro, knowing the local, and in terms of like being more informed than the clients, because obviously like they're hearing the negative news every day. They're seeing negative headlines that are literally being designed and engineered to get the most clicks, to invoke the most devotions. So you're fighting that every day. So let's talk about how to break that down, right? So you're going on, you gave a bunch of great sites for people to go reference in terms of where to get the information, but what are we looking for and how do we use it in our day-to-day?
So the key trends that I look at right now, I'm going to look at, and anyone that is a data hound and geek. I originally, Oliver, was not such a geek, dude. Like I just wasn't. When I say geek, I mean I geek out on this stuff. Like when I'm on the treadmill, like warming up for my 10 or 15 minutes before I go for my run, if I'm running inside, dude, I'm listening to this. Right? I'm like, what's that? I can't wait to get the information to turn around and dissect that and then be able to bring it out to all of you guys to be able to actually use effectively. Right. So here's what I'm always looking. Here are the key things I'm looking for. Number one is inventory levels, both nationally and locally. I can tell you right now, like, here's a key data point. In January, the inventory of homes for sale was 70% higher in January of 2023 than it was in January of 2022. Wow. In May, now watch this. In May, that number had actually diminished, collapsed down to 16%. It went from a 70% surplus to a 16% surplus. Now, watch. So that shows a trend. When I have that information, by the way, you can find that on Altos, and Mike Simonson talks about that, and David Childress on Keeping Current Matters. It really doesn't matter. They're like Coke and Pepsi. They both do the same thing, right? They just have a little bit different taste to them. But now I can go, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, I can appreciate the fact that you're wanting to wait because you think that there's going to be more opportunity for you, with homes to purchase. Can I share with you what makes me nervous about that? Do you know X, 70% surplus nationally? Do you know why that we're at 16% in May? And here was the big piece. It just came out as of July the 1st. Do you know that we officially, like as a nation, national numbers went on a deficit year over year? It's the first time it has happened in about 14 months, right? Where we have fewer homes for sale now nationally than we did a year ago. Okay. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for that to be able to actually position and show a buyer, hey, the more you wait, the less that you're going to have to choose from. Really simple script. Okay. Yep. Number two, second thing I look for is obviously the major lag indicator, right, is going to be prices. And everyone looks at prices as like, I'm going to talk prices. No, you need to talk the lead indicators. The lead indicators are what's going to show you what's happening in the future. The lag indicator is what's going to, and that's one of the challenges right now with CPI is that they're using lag indicator data. If you look at the true CPI index, it's a lot more robust. Anyway, number two, the second thing I look at is I'm going to look at month over month. I'm going to look at two numbers. I'm going to look at how many listings came to the market, how much new inventory came to the market. I'm going to look at how many new escrows were open, how many sales took place. Okay. Because that's going to give me a snapshot of, hey, I had 500 homes in my local market become active, and I had 600 homes sell. Well, I've got a gap, a collapsing gap of 100 homes where inventory is getting collapsed, or I've got an increase of inventory. That gives me the opportunity to tell the story to the buyer of what's happened in the last 30, 60, or 90 days. 90 days is a great window to do it in.
Yeah, love that.
Number three, and sorry, you can tell, like I said, I geek out on this. Number three, bro, I'm always going to look at mortgage applications as well too. Okay. Mortgage Daily News is a great place to get that. Altos, Mike does a wonderful job on that. Why do I want to know mortgage purchase application data? Well, that is a major lead indicator, because if I see that there's more applications for mortgages being taken out, I can predict that in 60 days, there's going to be a lot more activity in the market that is taking place as well too. I could tell you in May, we had 4 consecutive weeks of mortgage application purchase decline. And we felt that. A lot of people that I coach, brother, I don't know about you guys down in San Diego, everyone went like, holy shit, man, what happened in June? Things got a little bit tighter. We didn't see as much activity. Listings were sitting a little bit longer. Sellers were a little bit more open to negotiations, right? Okay. But then we saw 3 weeks of mortgage application increases the minute we got done with the debt ceiling negotiations. The minute that happened, then we saw 3 weeks. I don't have data for the last week yet. I'm waiting. We saw 3 weeks of mortgage application increases for purchases by 2 to 3% every single week. Well, are we feeling that right now? Yeah. Even though interest rates went up, we have a lot of properties that are still selling, a lot of active buyers, indicative of those applications. So that gives me the chance to say, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, you realize applications are up, which means you're going to have more competition. So now I've handled this more competition. I can talk pricing. I can talk interest rates, etc. So
love that. I love that, because I think, to your point, it is really important to be able to have those answers for when your clients inevitably say, oh, I'm going to wait for the market to crash, or I'm going to wait for interest rates to come down, or I'm going to wait for whatever other reason that they heard in the news. But when you know the real data, and you can say, look, in our market, actually, we're seeing this, because, as we all know, real estate's hyper local. It doesn't matter what's happening in on the East Coast, we're here in San Diego, and what really matters here in San Diego is what's happening here in San Diego. And so if you can know those, to your point, the how many new listings are coming on, how many homes are selling, how many are going under contract, things like that. Now you're able to have those educated conversations with people, which allows you to, back to your point earlier, have more confidence than them so that you can kind of handle objections and make more sales.
Dude, and so true. And by the way, I think we are in a very hyper local market type of specificity, right? Okay.
Mhm.
However, you also need to be able to know and be able to present the national data, because that's the shit they're getting off of CNN,
Right.
Fox, and all those
Exactly.
other places, right? So you've
Yep.
got to be able to talk to that. But then I think Keeping Current Matters just came out with their local data piece. Altos is known for that as well too, right? If you're
Yep.
looking at sources, those two are, like I said, they're Coke and Pepsi.
Yep.
If you're not going to invest in them, at least follow both of them on YouTube, because whether it's Logan and Housing Wire as well too, because whether it's Logan or Mike or David Childress or Steve Harney, any of them are going to have stuff on YouTube that you can listen to, and it's the
Yep.
educated.
Exactly. And Instagram, they put out stats on
So much
infographics, all of it. So
totally.
to your point, just to put a bow on that, I think 15 minutes a day, to your point, of just, watching some YouTube videos, reading some articles, connecting on Instagram and social media, and just getting that information is going to give you that little bit of an edge.
Now I'll add one more for sure, and I'll add one more piece to that as well too. It's one thing to know the data; it's a complete different thing to be able to present it effectively.
Ooh,
And
yep.
look, that is a skill for sure. I have put together about 7 different unique scripts that are market specific, meaning they're specific for this market. They're not evergreen, which can be used across the board at any time. No, they're for right now. All of them start with a basic fundamental question, Ollie, and that's this. I'm going to ask a buyer or ask a seller as I'm beginning to work with them. I'm curious, what have you heard or what do you believe is going on in our local market here in San Diego or Salt Lake City or Washington, D.C., wherever it is
Ooh,
that
that's
I am?
great. Flush it out right away.
Dude, and I'm just I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna let them talk, right? Because what I need to do is I need to know what their I call it their BS, and it's not their, it's their belief system. I need to flush out, you said it best, what their belief system is about the market, to be able to know how do I navigate with them to educate them. So I'll ask them 2 questions, and it's very important because I'll preface it by saying, I'm curious, what have you heard? Right? Because that softens it. Right. They're like, as someone that studies and is, geeks out as much on language and influence as I do on data, using phrases like I'm curious or I was wondering will soften a very direct question. So the second question I ask is, well, I was wondering, where did you get that information? I'm curious, what do you think is going on in our local market? I'm curious, where'd you get that information? Tells me what their BS is and how strong that is. And when I'm done with that, then I just get their information. I say, well, Oliver, let me do this. Let me share with you the reality of what is actually occurring in our local market today. And
I like that. Flip it around.
You got it. That one line is my way of saying, I honor, I understand, I'm not agreeing with, but I'm meeting you where you are on your belief. Right. But let me share with you, as a professional real estate agent, the reality of what is actually occurring in our local market today. And then I'm going to present those basic data points.
Yeah, insert data here.
Insert data, right? And I call it the cornerstone script, because it really is the cornerstone of any type of conversation that you're going to have with the lead once you're a little bit into the relationship, is helping them understand the market. See, I have to sell them on the market first. And as I'm selling them on the market first, I'm also selling them on myself, because they're getting sold on me as a area expert, right? And not as just another realtor. Okay. And then I need to sell them on why now versus waiting. Those 3 sales can take place based upon the data that I do, right? But you got to present it effectively. And for all of you that are watching right now, listen, you're going to learn by two ways. Either you're going to learn because you take the time to practice and role play, right? Yes. Like, believe it or not, in sales, you should practice and role play. It's something like I have that 3-day course that I teach, bro, called Sales Power up here in Salt Lake City in September. It's 3 days of scripts, role plays, influence, how to present. Like, it's intense. It's a boot camp, and I can't wait for it. I look forward to the 3 or 4 that I do a year. But if you're not going to practice with somebody else, which costs you time, that let's just admit it, like it's going to be time, 15 minutes a day of studying data, 15 minutes a day of role playing scripts. You can do that and you'll learn and you'll move forward and you go out and use it. Or you cannot practice. And instead of it costing you time, it'll end up costing you opportunity and money because you'll miss opportunity because you're not putting the time in to be able to build your skills and have those effective conversations.
That's good. Yeah. Couldn't agree more on all that. I want to circle back to the other thing you said earlier that I wrote down, which was marketing, prospecting based and marketing enhanced is how, the top producers and you kind of view building the business.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that because I feel like, when people hear things like role play and prospecting, they're like, ooh, I don't want to do any of that, right? I don't want to do any of that real salesy stuff, or they just have a negative impression of it. But I also believe that, the prospecting is kind of the fundamental cornerstone of the business. But let's talk about how we put into action being prospecting based and marketing enhanced.
So I honestly, bro, like hearing you say like the belief that you have on lead generation and prospecting. When people say prospecting, they automatically think a little Mike Ferry-esque, right? They think I'm gonna cold call or I'm gonna door knocker. Well, look, prospecting is calling your past clients. Prospecting is following up with your sphere. Prospecting is digging into your online leads that you have. Okay. Prospecting is following up with the open house leads that you actually generated over the weekend. It isn't like I'm cold calling. We gotta flush that out and sort of reframe that, because prospecting in today's world and the marketing that's done, it's following up on leads and doing all of that. Now, here's what I will tell you. Every single person that I know that has built a sustainable 7-figure business. When I say sustainable, meaning they weren't a flash in the pan, they weren't a one-hit wonder or a one-year wonder. It wasn't that they went from hero to zero, then zero to hero. The ones that like our buddy Sanit, man. Okay. Like Sanit's a grinder. Like that dude built his business the old fashioned way by picking up the phone. Now, is he a brilliant marketer? Hell yes. And by the way, big shout out to Sanit Agarwal, man. I love that guy. Heart of gold, but dude, he works his ASS off, right?
Yep.
And
hands down, legend.
Legend, right? Legend. And I can name multiple legends like across the board. You look at a Veronica Figueroa down in Florida. How did she build that business? She picked up the phone and she prospected. Even one of my old Tom Ferry friends, Glenna Baker, that is known as the TikTok queen, right? I remember Glenna when she was out door knocking around her neighborhood to get her geographic farm going. Every single one of these individuals that you see that are front and center on social media that have this huge presence from marketing, how did they get there? They busted their ass 1 to 2 to 3 hours a day, reaching out to potential clients or past clients so they could generate enough income so that they could begin to actually move from sweat equity to check equity. There's a difference. The sweat equity is I'm going to do this shit at the level that I need to because I don't have the money to invest. The check equity is I'm going to write a check to be able to actually augment and be able to market a little bit more. Well, you got to check. The best businesses have that balance of sweat and check, right? But you got to sweat equity that at the very beginning. So what does it take? I've done the math, and this is what I'm just going to make it really simple. 1 hour a day of prospecting 200 days a year, you will survive. Okay. That means whether you're doing it a 1 hour block or you're doing it throughout the course of the day, you're typically talking to 4, 5, or 6 people during that time, right? If you do that, it is the numbers. Dude, I had it because I was talking to someone about this. I wonder if I got it. You will actually survive the business. And what I call that is I call it survival and debt. That's the level of what you're going to live. That's the life you're going to live, because you're going to end up going into a little bit of debt. You're going to experience some pain. 2 hours a day, 200 days a year, right? You're going to have sustainability. Okay. And you will actually you will not have wealth, right? But you will have a sustained and comfortable lifestyle at 2 hours, right? Because you're going to probably sell, if you're doing 2 hours of lead gen a day, you're going to talk to about 7, 8, 9 people. It's 1,800 people. You'll sell about 15 to 16 homes doing that. That ain't too shabby in Southern California, but you take your expenses out and everything else, right? Okay. 3 hours a day, that's where the breakthrough occurs. If you can buckle down. Do you know, okay, San Diego, I know you know him. He's my affirmation partner. He is a love-hate relationship people have. Carlos Gutierrez, right? So ex-Monty Montezuma. Carlos, I think, is down in La Jolla, California. Do you know Carlos?
Yeah, I'm familiar. I don't know him personally, but I know who he is.
So Carlos is the longest standing relationship that I have in my life. He's my affirmation partner. He's made it through 2 wives that I've actually had. So, but we do affirmations every single morning. That
That's
dude,
awesome.
right? Couple $1 million a year producer, still prospects every single day for 2 hours. Okay. Now, how do you get there? Start small to go big. Start with a contact a day. Start with a call a day. Start with 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You don't have to bite the elephant off all at once, right? So
I think that's great advice too.
yeah. Dude, I get people, like, when it comes to like scheduling and time management, people think that coaching is like this magic pill, bro, that we go, you are healed, right? And we have exercise the demons, and people like go off and they're great. No, like it is us being able to be patient enough as coaches to allow progress to occur and not expect perfection overnight. See, I met the late, not the late, I met the great Laird Hamilton, right? Years ago when, do you remember the movie Riding Giants?
Yeah.
Such a rad movie, right?
Yeah. Crazy movie.
It's like both Riding Giants and Step into Liquid. I get chills in my arms. Both came out right about the same time, right? So it was iconic. But in Newport Beach, California, they had the preview, or the premiere, I should say. And this is how long ago this was. It was at Fashion Island. And I grew up in Southern California. I live in Salt Lake City now, but I grew up down in Dana Point. And I was living in Aliso Viejo at the time. And my one of our friends said, she was the head marketer for Vans, and she got tickets for us. And we got to go to the premiere of Riding Giants, right? Which was at the Hard Rock Cafe in Fashion Island. That's how long ago that is. It's gone now at this point. And I met Laird, and I got a chance to talk to him very briefly at the bar. And I mean, for those of you that don't know who Laird Hamilton is, it's sort of sad. I mentioned it at seminars now, and people are like, I don't know who he is, right? And I'm like, dude, invented toe-in surfing, right? Like, he was the guy that invented toe-in surfing. Before that, he was a world-class windsurfer. Now he's a has brought paddleboarding front and center. And now the hydrofoil, right? Which is just insane. He's an innovator.
Legendary waterman, surfer, big wave surfer, all that.
Innovator, like just innovator, like the best, like arguably probably one of the best athletes ever in the history of athletes, right? He's like the Michael Jordan of water sports. And I said, why have you been so successful in everything you did? And he said to me, he goes, Bill, most people, because I told him, I'm like, I want to bring something from this conversation back to the people that I serve, who are all my seminars or all my coaching clients. And he said, Bill, most people, when they start something, they expect they're going to be excellent at it within a couple of weeks. He goes, when I start something, I know it's a 2 to 3 year process. And I'm like, dude, how don't you get frustrated at that? He goes, yeah, of course. He goes, but I tell myself, he goes, see, I just focus on getting a little bit better every single day. And he said something to me that just resonated and stuck with me. And really, it's one of those moments that I went, change my life. He looked at me, goes, I tell myself, he goes, and tell the people that you coach and tell people at your seminars that success is all about progress, not perfection. That's the game.
That's a good one.
And so
success is about progress, not perfection.
It's about progress, not perfection, bro. Right. So many of us get so caught up in our business needs to change overnight. But look at Big Block, man. Like how long have you guys been around?
10 years.
How long have you been in the real estate space?
Yeah. Longer than that, 15, 17 years, something like that.
17 years. Did you get it overnight?
No, definitely
No,
not. Definitely
no,
not.
right?
Yeah.
And
No, I
so
love that because it relates to almost every single part of the business. It relates to prospecting, right? Every day you're going to get a little
a
bit
little bit
better,
better,
but you
a
got to
little bit
start
more.
somewhere. It
Yeah,
relates to getting creative and learning objection handlers.
totally.
Same thing. You're going to not be very good at first, but the more you do it, the better you're going to get.
Doing your videos for the first time, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, think
Yep.
about that. Like our first
Yep.
videos we do, I look back at some and I just go, oh shit, someone burned those, right? But they get a little bit better, right? And you don't
Yep.
have to be perfect. And
Yeah.
I think when you, and as a leader, like I'm working right now, I work with a lot of team leads. I had one with someone in Florida today, and she's like, we lost two of our top producing agents. And I'm like, awesome. Where's the lesson? What do we learn? How are we growing,
Mm,
etc.
mm,
Right? And how are we going to use this to progress? And
mm.
if you have a team and it hasn't fallen apart yet, buckle up because it's going to come eventually. You know what I mean? And that'll be your opportunity to either progress or get pissed off, and
Mm.
the choice is yours at that point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's good right there. And I love that lesson from Laird Hamilton. I think that's hugely
amazing.
relatable to the business. One thing I've also heard you talk a lot about is the NLP side of the business, the how to communicate better with people, the repeating and the approving. So how can we take that? Because I know that all helps with prospecting. It helps
For
with
sure.
doing listing presentations and buyer presentations. It helps with basically every part of the business. So what are some tips you have for us there?
I think the first thing is to recognize how communication breaks down. Communication is 7% words, it's 38% tone, and it's 55% body, right?
Mm,
So 7% of what I'm communicating with Ollie right now and with all of you guys are the words that I'm using. But the tone and the way that I say it and the way that I deliver it is going to be 5 times more impactful than the words. That's why so
yeah.
many of us go to events and we hear these people on panels and we go, oh shit, listen to that objection handler. Say it again, say it again, say it again. Let me, and you grab your phone and you're like,
Yeah.
well, hold on one more time. And then you go home and you try and use it and then you poop the proverbial bed. Well, why is it? Because you don't have the tone down. You just get the words down. The tone
Right.
is so critical. And body language, your body will actually control like the way that you sound, but also control the way that you feel as you're delivering it as well too, which has a dramatic impact.
Mm,
So I think for a lot of people, and I have codified and synthesized. It's one of the things I teach in this 7 figures, wherever the hell it is, 7 figure selling, the 8 laws of influence. And law number 1 is you got to get your scripts and dialogues down. Law number 2 is you got to generate a ton of energy when you're presenting. Law number 3 is you need to control your emotional state, right? Because anyone can do the things they want to do on the days they want to do it. It's the ballers, it's the icons that can do the things they don't want to do on the days they don't want to do it. And that's a skill, that's a trait, that's a
mm,
characteristic. It's not something you're born with. You build it up. You got to control your drunk monkey, my good buddy. So I'm just going through, those are the 8 laws of influence. But I think the key ones when we talk about language is you got to know what to say, man. Like you got to have these scripts down. And people, and you and I were talking about this just earlier, people hear the word scripts and they're like, get away, Satan, right? And that's not, scripts are not bad. They're just delivered by shitty salespeople. And then that makes the script bad, right? Okay.
right.
If you ever go to a Tony Robbins event, and like, I'm not sure how many of you guys ever gone to like a UPW, Firewalker, or something like that. I've been to multiples. That entire event is scripted. He does the same things minus the interventions, almost identical. The music. So the team that I have that did, does our AV and did
Hmm.
for years, did Tony's AV. And I'm like, how
Mm,
much of that is scripted? They're like, literally 85%. We know when to hit the right music. We know when the cue is. We know what to do. We know when he's going to go to a certain place. We know when he's going to do interventions and we know what music to play. They've got that entire thing scripted. And you look
hmm.
at this guy who's worth $1 billion, by the way. Okay.
Hmm.
So Tony Robbins, I look at that and I go, if this mofo is going to script 3 days, why can't we script 1 hour, which is our listing presentation, or
Hmm.
2 minutes, which is our follow-up call? So you got to get the words down where you can just do this. Hi, thanks again for having me over. I'm excited about getting your home on the market and getting it sold. Do you mind if I take a quick look at your home? I wrote down 3 real important questions for you. Number 1, do you absolutely have to sell this home? Number 2, do you really price the home to sell? Number 3, do you want me to handle the sale for you? At the end of my presentation tonight, one of 3 things will happen. Number 1, I'll have the opportunity to sell your list with me. Number 2, you'll decide not to listen to me. Number 3, I'll decide not to take your listing. The 3 is fine. Let's quickly take a moment and review the questions I asked you over the phone. You said you're moving to blank. You said you'd be there by blank. You weren't thinking about selling it yourself. You're thinking about a price of blank. Now, there's only 2 issues we have to look at tonight. Number 1 is your motivation to sell this home. Number 2 is the price of selling your home. Do you know how buyer determines value? Buyer determines value by comparison shopping. They look at the features and benefits of your home and compare it to the features and benefits of your home that are sold recently or currently on the market. Now,
sounds like you've done that a few times.
Dude, that's my listing presentation, right? And I knew at a very long time, like when I was a young agent, I didn't have a lot of experience, so I had to attack this and create as much confidence as I could, right? And so getting the words down is number 1. It's paramount. Will I ever deliver it exactly verbatim? Probably not, right? But it gives me the outline, right? It gives me, this framework. Number 2, I've got to deliver that with some energy, some excitement, with some enthusiasm. Think about Ollie, man. If I came to this and we're sitting here and I'm talking to everyone and well, you need to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced.
Real estate is really great.
It's great. You get your data down, spend 10. I could deliver the same information and it would go over like a lead balloon if I wasn't passionate about what I'm talking about. Now, that's why I study as much as I do, so I can be passionate about what I'm talking about the data and about the information. But I've got to have that energy and that excitement and that enthusiasm. And I've always said this to people I coach and people in my seminars. If you're not going to be excited to work with them, why would they ever reciprocate excitement back to be excited with you? You are representing them in the largest financial decision that 99% of them will ever have, which is the equity position of their property and the purchase of their home, right? You better show your excitement. You better show your enthusiasm. You better be prepared, because if not, this is a crazy stat. Ready? Average real estate agent last year earned about $44,000 in North America. Okay. 44K. That's about, what is it? 20. I've got the stat right here. I've got to pull this up because it's going to blow your mind. Sorry. I should have this off the top of my head. So average realtor last year, $44,813. That's $21 per hour. You want to hear the freaking amazing stat on this? Remember, it's 44,813. If you are a full-time employee at McDonald's as of May the 8th, you would be making $20.24. A full-time employee at McDonald's makes $42,000 a year in California. A real estate agent on average makes $44,813. It's a $2,000 difference. You know what that tells me? We're not treating this as professionals and we're not treating it as salespeople. We're treating this as hobbyists, period. Right. And that's why we as an industry are laughed at, looked down upon, is because we don't put the time, energy, and effort in to be able to actually be the professional. Professionals are prepared. They're excited. They're enthusiastic. They have their scripts and dialogues down. They prospect every single day. Right. And they put the client's needs first. So.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I think that's absolutely critical, is treating it like, like you work for an IBM or a hedge fund or whatever, where you had to come in every day and had to do your job. If you had to do, 2 to 3 hours of prospecting every day, follow up, presentations, and then the admin work, I think people would have a lot more success. And I love what you said earlier about prospecting too, that it doesn't have to be like cold calling. It doesn't have to be this terrible thing. It could be simply calling your friends and just saying, hey, if I came across a good deal, would you be interested? Things like that. Just basic.
Or do you have a question? Dude, we go to parties and when people find out you're a real estate agent, what's the number one thing they ask you?
How's the market?
How's the market? What's going on in the market? Yep. So if we know that so many people are going to Zillow to find out how's the market, what's the value of my house, why would you not be calling your friends and saying, dude, Ollie, how you doing? It's Pipes, man. How's everything going? How's the family? Cool. Listen, today's call, like I wanted to reach out to you because I've had a ton of our friends ask me, Pipes, how's the market when I see them at parties. I
Yep.
thought I'd be proactive, reach out to you and just ask you what questions do you have about what's going on in the real estate market right now.
Yep. Exactly. And now you're in dialogue talking about real estate.
Yeah. And I'm service. I'm just coming at this from a standpoint of service. How can I serve them? How can I be a reliable source of information? How can I educate them? How can I help them make better decisions if they do need to buy or sell? See, here's what I like at the core of what I believe is an educated and motivated consumer will always make more intelligent decisions. But you've got to have motivated, because if they're not motivated, there ain't any script that I can teach you that's going to get them to be motivated. Either they're motivated or they're not. That's why we prospect, by the way, bro. We prospect to find the motivated so we can have the conversation so they can make intelligent decisions, right? So I really believe that a motivated consumer, buyer or seller, coupled with an educated agent that takes the time to ongoingly educate them on the market, will make intelligent choices based upon what their goals are. That's our job right now, man. So
I love that. I love that because it boils it down to something that everybody can understand and everybody can execute on.
Yeah, totally.
Very cool. Well, I do have a couple just quick questions to wrap with because I know you got a jam here pretty soon.
Yeah.
One of them is in 60 seconds or less. What would you say is the best way for someone that wants to be successful in real estate to structure their day?
Very simple. Up until 12 o'clock, you work like you're an employee. After 12, you work like you're a business owner. What does that mean? That means that there are non-negotiables in your day. I loved, Oliver, what you said. You said, hey, listen, if you were going to be let's say that your goal is $400,000 worth of income, 150,000, whatever the number is that you want to earn. Well, you got to work like you're punching the clock in the morning, show up to an office every single day. You punch the clock and you work like you're working for demand in the morning, right? But you got a boss. That boss is, okay, I'm going to role play. I'm going to show up at the same time. I'm going to get myself together. I'm going to have a little jam session to make sure all my numbers are together. I'm going to follow up on my leads. I'm going to call my past clients in Sphere. I'm going to spend an hour or 2 or 3 in the morning building my business, doing income generating activities, working like an employee. Then at 11:30, I can be done, or 11 o'clock, and I can actually do whatever follow-up and administration work that I need to, take a little break. And then in the afternoon, I can be the business owner. I can work on the business. I can take the time to go on presentations. And you know what? I have people that when they were newer agents, I don't coach a lot of brand new agents. Actually, I don't coach any brand new agents myself. I have my coaches that do that. But I had brand new agents once upon a time. And I said, listen, just give me this. Work like I own you up until 12 o'clock, that you're my employee. And here's what it looks like. And I'd have them call me, text me, tell me that they're there, etc. At 12, they'd report their numbers. And then at 12 o'clock would come around. They're like, what do I do now? I go, I give a shit. Go to the movies. Go have some fun. Go to the fucking beach, right? Excuse my language. Go do whatever you want to do. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And enjoy it, because if you keep doing what I'm asking you to do in the morning, eventually the afternoon is going to fill itself up. And sure enough, within 30 days, those individuals were like, holy shit, man, where's my time? And oh my gosh, and I've got all these appointments. Why? Because they worked in the morning to actually generate the business. And then eventually all of that business and all those leads, right, began to fill up their appointments in the afternoons. So
that's great. Work like an employee in the morning till noon, and then take the rest of the day to do the admin, the shooting content, the presentations, appointments, whatever else you got to do. But just lock down the mornings, and the business will come.
You got it. I promise you. Honestly, guys, I will pay for coaching for a year with me. Anyone that does 90 days of working in the morning, doesn't miss a beat. Honestly, I put my word on it. Like, as a man, as a human being, as a person of integrity, if you do that for 90 days and you don't see your business improve and you don't begin to have some financial freedom, call me. I'll freaking coach you for a year, right? Because we got something's off on that at that point, man.
Love that.
So
yeah, that's huge.
I want to say thank you for having me on too. you and I have not gotten the chance to stay. Our circles have crossed. I've been impressed and watching what you guys are doing and watching who you've attracted to the organization. And I just want to say, like, thank you for doing not just this show podcast, but also for just the stand that you make for the agents part of your organization and just for the industry as a whole, dude. I really appreciate it, man.
Much appreciated. Much love right back at you, Bill. Always going to be a fan, cheering for you from afar. And hopefully we get to connect more in the future. And also for those that do want to connect with you, learn more, how can they connect with you?
They can go to coachpipes.com, www.coachpipes.com. There's opportunity to be able to actually see the different types of coaching programs. We obviously have our training, which is over here, which is 7-figure selling. We have our $1 million coaching, which is over there. There we go, right up there. We have multiple events that are taking place, all of which can be found on our website. Okay. And on top of that, follow me on Instagram at Coach Pipes or Facebook, Bill Pipes, right? I'm pumping out as much relevant and content as I possibly can, that whether we choose to work together or not, right? That you get some type of value out of the relationship that we have, whether it's a close one or one that's from afar. So
yeah, that's huge. I would say definitely follow at Coach Pipes on Instagram. You're putting out some really awesome videos regularly. They're motivational, they're inspirational, they're actionable. So all great things. And that can be part of your 15 minutes a day of, learning and information. Yeah. So thanks again, Bill. Really appreciate you. To those out there, if you're not already, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.